Recently the Singapore Prime Minister sued another blogger. I was the first blogger, ordinary Singaporean, who was sued by the Prime Minister, and in 2018 there was another blogger who was sued. His damages were recently announced. He had to pay $133,000 to the Prime Minister, so he crowdfunded for the damages as well, and he raised it in 11 days. So at that point, there were some supporters and friends who said that I should do it too because the damages awarded to me was $150,000. I have paid $6,000 up to this month, so they encouraged me to do so. I was a bit hesitant because I wasn't sure if there would be traction, but when we started, I realized that there were many people who still remember the advocacy I did on the Singapore pension funds and the lack of transparency, and they came on board to support and contribute. So I'm very touched by it. Yeah, Singapore's case is very unique in the sense that the government's method of political persecution is slightly different from other authoritarian regimes. In other authoritarian regimes, they are more forceful. They put dissidents into jail, perhaps even kill them. But in Singapore, because it is an apparent developed country, the methods the government use are more sophisticated in order to ensure that they are still able to do business and attract investments. So the methods that they have used put a high penalty, a high financial penalty on the person who criticized the government so that it will stop them from criticizing the government or to put their job at risk or their livelihood at risk, to stop them or to push them out of the country. So this month, me and another blogger, we managed to successfully crowdfund, I think, close to 300,000 Singapore dollars. And it is a sign that Singaporeans feel that there needs to be a platform for them to be able to resist. We are not able to protest in Singapore because a one-person protest in Singapore is even illegal, and the space where there's only a space in Singapore, a small park where protests are allowed, and even then, several of us were charged. I was charged right after I was sued in 2014 on the basis of public nuisance. So it has been difficult. Recently, Jollivan Wham was also charged for holding a piece of paper with a smiley face. So we have therefore developed, I think it has been an organic process where it has come to a point where Singaporeans feel that since there's no physical ability to protest, that they have evolved to use if the government is going to put a penalty on the person who speaks up using a financial penalty, the resistance will come in a targeted form as a financial resistance back towards the government. It's actually, I think Malaysia just a few months ago also had a similar crowdfunding where Malaysia Kini, someone was also, the crowdfunding also, there was also a success to that. I think it is not unique in the world because of how authoritarian governments are still structured. Singapore and to some extent Malaysia represent a form of soft authoritarianism where these methods therefore have to be developed because otherwise in other countries they do not resort to such methods because say in Hong Kong, the current oppression is so direct that there's a very little form of resistance that can be developed. And perhaps there is therefore this space that can be used to challenge the current space in Singapore. But though there is a conversation that some people are saying, what if the government decides to come up with a new law to make it difficult for crowdfunding to be used as a form of resistance? And knowing the Singapore government, they have developed innovative ways of persecution that allows them to maintain an image of sophistication, but yet be able to effectively persecute. So that is an open question. I think whether or not this means of resistance is adaptable to other countries depend on their level of authoritarianism and also the solidarity that people have. I have to say that in Singapore, it is also difficult because people are actually quite scared to protest, and even putting, even financially supporting, and even using financial means as a resistance. The fact that we were able to do it, I think it shocked many of us, and it reflects a changing sentiment that has begun since the last election in Singapore. I think if you look at Taiwan, I'm staying in Taiwan right now because after I was sued, I was fired from my job. The government sent out press releases to say that I defamed the prime minister. So it was difficult to look for a job, and I had to move to Taiwan. And I was just having this discussion with my colleagues today, and they were saying that it would be difficult or unimaginable for a politician to actually sue a citizen because there is free press, there is freedom of speech, and there would be a lot of social retaliation from citizens against a politician who would do that. And there is therefore already a form of gatekeeping to prevent the politicians from abusing their power. But if that is to happen, I think if you were to look at Taiwan, I think citizens, because it's a democracy, there's free press, the person who is persecuted is able to go out and put out his stand in a very transparent manner. It would encourage a lot of support from the public as compared to a regime like Singapore, where there is still that fear. It might not look. I think the trick about soft authoritarian countries is that they are able to appear as if there is a semblance of democracy by maintaining elections, but there is no free press in terms of state control, and citizens who protest or who speak up are persecuted using different means. So the very fact that we were able to do this within 10 days is a success. But I think in the democracy, because they are not encumbered by the state control, there's free press, there's debate, there's the ability to protest. I think the ability to crowdfund an amount that I faced would move much faster. For example, in Malaysia, I think the amount was, if I'm not wrong, it was close to 1 million Malaysian dollars, and then they managed to do it within a month. The difference is Malaysia went through a relatively a democratic process in the sense that in 2018 they had a change of government towards another government that had a little more respect towards human rights, and they have been having the more movements and protests for the past few years, and they had movements a move towards more representation from the opposition in government. So there was that space that allowed people to push and donate and be braver to step up using financial resources as a form of resistance. Well, I think hopefully not. I hope that this will send quite a strong signal to the government that Singaporeans over the last 2 years have developed a different form of understanding of what they expect of their political leaders. It shows that they do not tolerate the use of such forms of persecutions on people who speak up for them or people who question issues. What is quite apparent this time is that people across the political spectrums supported. There are people who do not agree with the advocacy that I did, did not agree with what I said or how I did the advocacy, who supported because they wanted to make a statement, send a statement out that they believe that there needs to be transparency, that there needs to be discourse, critical debates. So that, I hope, is what the government is taking in. But the blogger before me who managed to crowdsource this funding, $133,000, he announced yesterday that the Prime Minister's lawyer is asking for $130,000 in costs. So previously he managed to raise the amount in damages, but then now there is this cost that the Prime Minister wants. So I hope that this is not a sign that the Prime Minister or the government doesn't understand that that there needs to be a different approach that people want. And if the government continues to use such an approach, it would be very out of touch and very detached from the sensibilities of the citizens. There is also another independent media, the Online Citizen, the editor of the Online Citizen, Terry Shu, who is facing a defamation suit, civil defamation suit from the Prime Minister as well. So he might also have to conduct a fundraising, a crowdfunding like that to deal with his damages as well. He was sued at around the same time as the blogger Leong Zihian, so his damages might be coming up soon. So we will see if we are able to repeat this process to use the financial means as a form of resistance. Yes, yes. Actually, I think many people who have supported me, they say that they have done it for the previous blogger Leong Zihian as well, and they say they are taking a stand because of the advocacy I did. And there was someone from the opposition, very well respected person, and who said that he has donated because he wanted to pay it forward to how other people have supported their opposition party as well. And it's very sensitive for opposition politicians to be appearing in such campaigns. So therefore, I will also take the same step and to pay it forward to someone else. And I think gradually we might see people who are motivated and who become more confident in being part of a process like that. Since there are about 2,000 people and then 4,000 including those who supported Leong Zihian, the previous blogger, hopefully this will create a momentum and send the government a signal to stop using defamation suits. Though they might progress to other forms of persecutions that they would have more control over, you know. Yeah, actually, when we started the crowdfunding, I was hesitant. I was uncomfortable. I think that was the same discomfort I had in 2015 when the damages were announced that I had to pay the Prime Minister, because I didn't think that people should be contributing to the damages to pay to a personal suit of the Prime Minister, because why should we lavish this money on the Prime Minister? But, as we progressed, I realized that people felt that they were contributing to this campaign as a form of protest, as a form of someone described minor resistance. And actually, it was how I also supported the previous blogger, Leong Zihian, in his campaign. I shared the post and I talked about how it's actually a form of protest as well. It's to send a signal. It's a form of resistance. It's a form of civil disobedience movement. And I think it's an acknowledgement that many people, when they donated to the cause, they wrote about how they felt there was injustice. They wanted to bring about justice, to prove that they believe in equality and fairness, in restoring hope. I think that's the kind of sentiment that people have when they contributed, that they wanted to in a way, when the whole episode was over today, I felt that I was vindicated. even though I was found to have defamed the Prime Minister in the court, but in the public opinion, the fact that we are able to raise this amount made it look like the public was vindicating me, and it's a very empowering process, I think, both for me and for the public. And I think this is a sentiment that the government might be very displeased with, and they will try to find ways to push back that form of empowerment. Yeah. So that negotiation of power that's happening right now it's interesting to see how it will develop moving from here. Yeah.